in 2022, cheetahs were released back into India after becoming the first and only large predator to die out since they gained their independence in 1947, declared extinct 4 years later. But it's not a plug and play situation due to the fact that the cheetahs released were African, not Asian, which are genetically different. Asiatic cheetahs once hailed from the Arabian Peninsula to the Near East Caspian region. 12 years ago, there was an estimated 100 Asiatic cheetahs left, primarily found in Iran. But as of today, it is estimated that only around 30 to 12 remain, now labeled regionally extinct, making them far too risky to relocate. Why did cheetahs disappear from India? In the 18th century, cheetahs rapidly declined, primarily due to hunting, habitat loss, and government-sanctioned bounties under British rule. And we know this from the studies of Mahesh, a renowned professor in environmental and historical studies at both Ashoka and Korea University. We have actual evidence of the killing of cheetahs for bounties that is backed by references in printed records such as district manuals and memoirs. But the former are more detailed on the number of animals killed, the amount of rewards paid, and the year in which bounties were given. In a span of 300 years, the Asiatic cheetah went from tens of thousands to a few hundred at the start of the 21st century. And since then, there has been efforts to replenish the cheetah population as early as 1918, but none successful. Enter Project Cheetah. 8 African cheetahs, 5 females and 3 males, were moved from Namibia to eventually be released into India's Kuno National Park in the state of Madhya Pradesh. The animals chosen were based on an assessment of health, wild disposition, hunting skills, and the ability to contribute genetics that would result in a stronger founder population. In February of 2023, South Africa translocated 12 more cheetahs to join the others in Kuno National Park, and still new cheetahs are set to arrive by the end of the year from Botswana and Kenya. Project Cheetah has faced plenty of criticism, both before and after it was approved, though the arguments have changed pre and post approval. For example, arguments against Project Cheetah pre-approval were voiced by reputable people like Fayaz Kutsar, a conservation biologist who worked at the Kuno National Park for around 8 years. His main concerns was about cheetahs not having enough to eat, warned that cheetahs would have stiff competition because they were going into areas with a high density of leopards, which were countered by the likes of Adrian Tordif, associate professor at the University of Pretoria, who had been involved with Project Cheetah since 2022, who argued that cheetahs from South Africa had been selected with the national park's other creatures in mind. The Director General of Project Cheetah also argued that India had worked to prepare the park over several years through anti-poaching measures, ultimately boosting the amount of prey. Another popular argument against was the fact that the African cheetah being introduced was not native, by definition invasive. In addition, we couldn't account for the unintended consequences. That argument countered by the likes of Ravi Shalem, who stated that cheetahs were a vital part to restore India's ecological imbalance in the food chain. 3 years later, the cheetahs have seemed to adapt to the Indian environment, which we will touch on later. But other arguments remain, somewhat unanswered due to the fact that most of the cheetahs have yet to spend a prolonged period in the wild. But something that has reared its ugly head, the unintended consequences. In July 2023, a male named Tahaz dies from injuries sustained from an encounter with a female cheetah, authorities later finding infections in his lungs and kidneys, along with a nasty maggot infection. In the same month, another cheetah, Siraj, dies of a fatal neck and back injury, maggot infections once again being present. Female cheetah Datiri was found dead almost a month after Suraj. Post-mortem revealed yet another maggot infection. Suspecting that the cat's monitoring collars could be contributing to the rise in infections, authorities revealed that they had removed collars from all cheetahs in captivity until they had safer material tested, prompting all the remaining cheetahs to be captured for monitoring. So let's talk about the collars. Tehaz, Siraj, and Datiri died, all attributed to maggots laying eggs and wounds under radio collars due to humidity trapped under the collar, which led to septicemia, a life-threatening bloodstream infection. Following Datiri's death, 4 more cheetahs were found infected with maggots, prompting the removal of the rest of the radio colors. According to the vets who directly work with the cats, they say they were caught off guard and that the difference in weather patterns from their homeland and their new home is completely the opposite. Namibia and South Africa in the much drier southern hemisphere, while Kuno in the northern hemisphere, which receives 764 milliliters of rain every year, most of it coming in the monsoon season, of course, that lasts around 2.5 months. The cheetahs were unable to lick and clean their wounds, as the collar posed an obstruction, which then gave rise to bacteria and maggots. A very similar incident with tigers occurred in 2014 when a tigress named T4 died of a very similar infection. Later in 2015, another Sundarban tigress died a very similar death. Aside from this controversy, Project Cheetah got off to a very rough start, as they received a lot of criticism over how much cheetahs have actually spent in the wild, as release attempts from enclosures were mostly unsuccessful. Cheetahs spent time in wild habitat-like confined areas, and being enclosed in small areas, small in comparison to a wild cheetah range, could be very stressful for the cats. After a very rough start, although far from perfect, Project Cheetah has settled in quite nicely, as there are now 15 free-ranging individuals in Kuno, 10 subadults, 3 adult females, and 2 males. Officials note that while adult cheetah survival was around 70% in the first year, it improved to 85% in the second year, reflecting increasing adaptations to the Indian conditions, well above the global average, which hovers around 40%. Early breeding suggests that Kuno is suitable for stable cheetah populations. The reintroduction of cheetahs is about restoring ecological balance. As apex predators, cheetahs play a crucial role in maintaining the health of a grassland ecosystem. Their return is expected to have cascading positive effects on the entire ecosystem, benefiting other species and promoting biodiversity. But after 2 years, we are yet to see any impact on the ecosystem, but that's mostly due to the absence of cheetahs in a true wild setting. So we'll have to wait and see. And that's all we got for the time being, and hopefully we will be reporting positive news from Project Cheetah in the near future.